Well, thanks everyone for joining our webinar today. We'll be talking about how you can go about successfully migrating to the Microsoft Project Online solution. We will be taking question and answer at the end. You'll be able to log those. We do have some upcoming webinars, and this is all based off your feedback. Our next session, October 3rd, is about integrating Microsoft Project Online with other systems like Jira, like ServiceNow, like TFS. So that should be a great session if you're interested in plugging your Project Online system with other tools. We have a session coming up on leveraging Project Online for resource management and capacity planning. That's in November. And finally, we'll finish up the year with using Microsoft Teams as a part of your overall project management solution. Hopefully you can join one of those sessions. We are also hosting a series of roadshows in several cities. It's a half-day immersion session where you're going to learn a lot more about using Project Online and Power BI to do things like digital transformation, integrate it with your agile processes, really how you go about planning and deploying the solution as well. The cities we're hosting it are listed on this slide. Hopefully you can join us. If you are interested in attending, you can just send us an email, info@progility.com, Attention Roadshow. We'll get you signed up. Likewise, we will send a link along after the session to the registration page. And finally, we do make all these sessions available through recordings. All of the 2018 sessions are posted on our Vimeo page. If you go to vimeo.com, look up our PROJILITY album for 2018, you'll find it there. And we also have a blog on our website with lots of great topics on PPM, Power BI, related topics. So just as an introduction, my name is Rob Hirschman with PROJILITY. We specialize in working with enterprise customers to plan, deploy, support, and train them on PPM processes, tools, and procedures, wrapping good process, tools, and people together. If you look at Gartner and what they recommend whenever you're going down the road of implementing a Microsoft PPM solution is working with a business partner that provides lots of services that can really support you and help drive success. We do provide the deployment and consulting services around PPM, integrating it with other systems. We have a Power BI and data analytics practice as well, and we also do PMO consulting and staffing and training. We do have a set of pre-built software solutions that can help provide better visibility and insight and control over your project management information in Project Online, whether it's a data warehouse, our BI solution, as well as a migration tool to assist with migrating to online from on-premise. And then we do have ongoing support services called Expert Care, where you can reach out, open a case, do break fix, as well as get enhancement support for your current system. So keep us in mind as you're going down the road. Our objective today is to provide you with an overview, an overall value proposition, and some of the key questions to ask if you're going down the road of planning to move to a cloud-based project management solution using Microsoft Project Online as a part of Office 365. So that is exactly what we're going to be talking about today in today's session. So the first question is, really, what are you migrating from? When we talk to clients, a lot of them are using the desktop version of Microsoft Project today. Or maybe they're using Project and SharePoint, or maybe just SharePoint on its own as a project management solution to store all their documents, track things like deliverables, action items, issues, and risks. We still have clients that are using the older legacy Project Server platforms of Project Server 2007. You might be on 2010, or you might even be on the 2013 version. The majority of these versions, including 2013, are now out of mainstream support. So Microsoft is recommending you look at a more modernized technology like 2016 or specifically the online version of the solution. But we also understand that there are other tools that are in the marketplace that people use to do their project portfolio management, whether it's PlanView or CA Clarity. Some folks are still on EPM Live. There's a lot of organizations that are Oracle-based organizations for ERP that continue to use the ERP platform as well as Oracle Projects and Primavera. And finally, tools like ChangePoint and Adaptive. So if you are in the market today, you're using one of those tools and you're looking to maybe integrate it or migrate to a Microsoft platform, it's a lot of what we're going to talk about today. How do you get there? Clients will first come out and ask, what's the value of moving to a cloud-based solution? If you look at it, the analogy we always provide is that of an iceberg. On-premise, if you look at it, seemingly the costs are lower. You've got your software license costs, but then you have to start looking, really below the waterline at all the costs related to a full PPM on-premise solution. You look at the standard customization and implementation, which is a part of any deployment, the hardware cost, the IT personnel, the maintenance, the training, which is a part of anyone as well, and you have all these ongoing costs that start to add up over time. So really the tip of the iceberg is just the software licensing costs, but it's all those other costs that start to come into play. When you weigh that against the cost of a cloud-based solution, initially the license cost will look higher because you're paying per user per month over an extended period of time. So your cost is going to go up there. But what you start to do is you start removing all those ongoing costs and you start to save money. You become more efficient. You can really focus on your business processes and practices. So if we start looking at, the value of looking to the cloud, it's really twofold. it shifts the burden of the IT management and the painful part of a PPM solution over to a vendor that's really good at that, at Microsoft, in managing cloud-based solutions. Number two, it allows you to really focus on improving your business processes and your results. So really the value of moving to the cloud is twofold. And you can actually do the math. You can actually pull out a spreadsheet, and if you're interested in more of a business case, we can provide you examples here of an on-premise versus a cloud-based solution. Again, you start to add up all the on-premise costs of not only the implementation costs and the software licensing, but hardware, IT personnel, maintenance and training, and then all the ongoing costs of patching software, bringing systems down, operating downtimes, rewriting any kind of customizations, ongoing hardware and software. You actually end up looking at it, if you look at over a 3 to 5 year period, your cost savings is going to be anywhere from 40 to 50%, we find in most enterprises. So if you start to do the math, it's a much more efficient model going to a cloud-based PPM solution. And then we can also look at what the differences are if you're on-premise versus the cloud. On the left side, you'll see for on-premise, the 2016 version, you still have full-featured PPM. You have your perpetual software licenses. You have hardware and software and maintenance, which is required, which is not on the right. You have full access to your data through the database directly, integration with tools like Active Directory. You still have to manage all your updates, your service packs, point-in-time features. What that means is you get the features as of that release date, and most likely there's just going to be updates and enhancements to that over time on an annual basis. On the right side, if we look at Project Online in the cloud, you have a very similar set of features. In fact, we actually have more features in online than we had in the cloud. As of about 3 years ago, Microsoft started releasing quarterly updates to Project Online, and those are both back-end performance as well as front-end functionality. So everything you see kind of below that orange line there are things that have been added to Project Online really over the last year or two. The concept of an evolving feature set where you're going to get updates, new updates coming out on a quarterly or biannual basis. The accessibility through mobile applications was released several years ago. The Power BI integration, which is not on-premise, as well as the ability to actually download report packs and plug in different data sources, as well as agile functionality. And these are just some examples of that evolving feature set. The value you get in the cloud is not just lower cost to maintain, focus on the business, less on IT, but also more features and functions. Microsoft is actually working on an agile release and iterative development cycle with Microsoft Project, and they're constantly making updates to the software and then communicating those out before they release. So just if you look at kind of on-premise and the cloud, you're going to start to see more business value from the cloud. So we start talking about what does a migration path look like. We'll get into some different options and different platforms here. If you're starting out, you want to really pick the starting point you're coming from. Is it Project on the desktop, Project in SharePoint? If you're in a current version of Project Server today, what is your current version? Because the migration path really goes through the most recent version to Project Online. And what I mean by that is, let's say you're on Project Server 2010. In order to get to online, you need to be technically updated to 2013 and then migrated over to Project Online. It's a two-step process. So if you're on 2007 or 2010, understand you're going to have to really do a virtual environment to move it to the next version and then migrate it to online. And there are also some tools that are out there from partners like ourselves and good processes and procedures around migration, which we'll go through, that can really help you get to the end point. So it starts out with where are you from a platform perspective? What tools do you have? We also have a lot of organizations that have other tools like a PlanView or a CA Clarity that want to move to Project Online. We can take a lot of their project schedule information and metadata about projects and migrate it into online as well. So, it's really about where you're starting from and where you're headed. So the key steps to any migration, as we talk about Project Online, really begins with the analysis and design. And we'll talk about why this is important, but really the focus there is understanding what functionality you want to get out of the platform, what are you doing in the current platform today, and what needs to be modified or changed within the current platform to get you to the new application. So you always want to do analysis and design up front before you just lift and shift what you have, because there's obviously going to be new things in online that aren't there in your previous version. We also want to start to analyze the data, project schedule data, resource data, timesheet data. Do we have collaboration data in SharePoint, our configuration data, all of that, and build a really solid migration plan, which is really the second step in a migration process. Build that plan out. Also have a plan for reporting, and most of the organizations we work with do a lot of enterprise reporting out of their current system. Reporting in Project Online is different. It's a different mechanism, a different set of tools, and you can certainly do the majority of the things you can do on-premise with online. It's a different approach and a different technology. So you need to definitely develop step 3, which is that reporting plan. Then what we want to do is start to stage this. And step 4 is really about putting a dry run in place to run through the migration in a dry run in a non-production type of environment where we're moving the configuration, we're moving the data, we're moving reports, and we're testing that out and validating the migration of that. The 5th step has to do with moving the reports over. So now we actually want to move the reports over into the new environment, make sure we have the right technology, make sure we can connect into that data, and we can represent the data we need to make business decisions, which is really what reporting is all about. The 6th step is then we plan it out. We do that production run of the actual migration, and that's where we're actually going to move it into production, maybe over the period of a week or 2 weeks. A weekend we do a flip over of that, and then we're going to go into a mode where we're going to train end users and administrators on the new system. And finally, we roll the system into production. So these are the key steps we find that drive successful migrations to a project online solution. The really good news here is this is the last migration from a Microsoft project version you ever have to do. With online, it's an evergreen service. So Microsoft, as we mentioned, is constantly updating the software. The value to you is there's no more versions anymore. Microsoft is going to be responsible for constantly updating the software, but also if there are any platform changes, Microsoft will assist with the migration of that. It'll be more, instead of a technical move, it'll actually be a shift over to any of those changes that are coming with the platform. So these are some of the steps required to do a successful migration. Some key questions you want to start asking if you're looking to migrate. The first one, why do I want to move? Is there a business reason to do it? Are we doing it to save money? Are we doing it to reduce some of our maintenance pains? Are we doing it because we're moving to Office 365 and we want everything integrated together? Are we doing it because there's functionality in Project Online that we didn't have in previous versions, or we just didn't deploy it that we want to start to leverage? So number one is why are you moving to Project Online? Then you start analyzing what tool or tools are you using today. Should you move your data? So the first question is really, do I need to move it? Why do I need to move it? Or do I sunset that data or take a snapshot of that data and start fresh with kind of the line in the sand approach? As of January 1st, all the new projects go in. Until that point, all the old ones are going to finish up in the old system. That's a pretty low risk way to approach a migration. Do I need to maintain my current configuration? So a lot of organizations we work with, if you do that analysis and design, you realize your configuration is dated. It was built 5 or 6 years ago, maybe at a very different time when you had different executives or different sponsors and a very different process in mind. You're at a different state with the business. It's a great time to review that and come up with a target configuration. And then finally, that big question, do I really need access to all of my old data? If you're in an environment that's heavily on compliance and regulation, maybe you do. If not, maybe you can just sunset it or take a snapshot of that database or extract data into Excel spreadsheets or reports. But, what do you need to migrate? Why do you need to migrate it? Are there reasons for it? And is it necessary to keep all of it, some of it, or just a piece of it? These are some of the key questions you want to start asking as you're starting to think about, do I want to migrate over? And there's a whole series of additional questions on the business side and the technical side you want to start asking if you're on a previous version of Project or Project Server. For instance, am I doing an as-is migration, or do I want to refine my requirements? If the case is I want to actually take a look at this, there's an opportunity to improve our business processes to get more out of this investment in PPM. It's going to require some analysis and design work up front before I go and migrate over. Do I have requirements, or my use cases, have they changed? Organizational needs might have changed. Again, analysis and design work, more time up front to plan this out and plan out the configuration. Change in the management vision. Has the environment or a methodology changed? 5 years ago, if we talked about the rise of Agile, it wasn't where it is today, where most organizations we work with are using Agile or Wagile or a combination of Agile and Waterfall together. That wasn't the same case 5 or 10 years ago. So if the methodology is changing, you want to start to address how the tools are going to reflect that. Maybe there are groups in the organization that are really clamoring for PPM that didn't use it before. They may have very different requirements than your group, whether it's IT, new product development, or marketing. It's a great opportunity to bring them in to leverage really the scale of Project Online in your existing investment, but it's going to take a little more time to plan that out because they may have different requirements. And finally, is there a broader strategy around business intelligence and data? A lot of organizations, as they go through a digital transformation, are starting to integrate in data from systems like PPM. They're starting to do big data approaches to it, or data warehouses and data marts. PPM can be a great source of that information. There's the potential to move this from, hey, projects just over here in the PMO, to it's really a true enterprise application we use to drive business decisions. So again, more time up front to do the planning, maybe working with different teams in the organization. As we start looking at the technical side of that migration, we want to start looking at the details. Ask questions like, how many project schedules or project team sites do I have today? Do I want to migrate those over? If I'm in Project Server, I'm going to look at the schedules, the schedule complexity, the number of resources, the tasks and assignments, timesheets. If I have SharePoint in Project Server, or maybe it's just SharePoint standalone, maybe I want to start to migrate some of my content over into the new environment, because Project Online comes integrated with SharePoint. So I can move issues and action items and risks and documentation over into the new sites. There's an effort to plan that, to test run it, and then do a migration, a production migration of that as well. How much data do I have to migrate? Am I using OLAP cubes or any of the OLAP technology, which is an older technology built on SQL Server, versus OData, which is what comes out of the box with Project Online? The reporting structures are fundamentally different. In fact, there is no OLAP cube in Project Online, so we have to come up with an alternative, a reporting approach to this, and a strategy. Are all of my users in one domain or multiple domains? That'll impact how we integrate Active Directory in. Am I using timesheets, and do I want to migrate timesheet data over? Well, there's currently a limitation where we actually can't migrate timesheet data over. It has to be manually re-entered. That may be a reason to do a snapshot and keep an older database and start new at a certain date as it relates to time management and time tracking. And then, do I have any customizations to my SharePoint components? Will those migrate over into the newer version of SharePoint, which is currently going through some changes? So these are some technical questions you want to start to ask as you're planning for a migration. Additionally, reporting is huge, as I mentioned before. Do you have current reports? What are they written in? How are they structured? What tools are you using? And is management happy with those, or is this an opportunity to really improve those? Are you using Excel, SQL reporting services? Are you starting to use Power BI? If so, you want to do some analysis on these reports and determine what's the right approach to this. Do I buy a pre-built reporting pack in Datamart? Do I build my own? Do I come up with some kind of an ETL strategy for that? So this is definitely going to play into your migration strategy. Are there resources in Project Server that have what's called an inactive timesheet manager? This is something that actually doesn't work as you go through the migration. Is Project Server integrated with any third-party line of business systems like a finance or an HR system? Those integration points most likely are going to have to be redesigned and rebuilt with the new technology in mind. And finally, are there really any issues with the current system you want to improve on? A lot of folks come to us and say, our system is slow, it's not performing well, we're tired of dealing with the IT side. That's a great reason to actually move over to online. But what are those specific issues? And you want to go and address that within Project Online to make sure you don't recreate those problems. So these are some of the technical questions you want to start asking. But what if? There's always different scenarios here. What if I'm not using Project Server to the fullest and I want to deploy more functionality? What does that look like? So what we've done here is we've actually broken that out. And typically when we're going down a migration path like this, there's two parts of it. There is, sorry, I went too far. So there's the first part of it, which is at the top, where you design and deploy the new solution first. You do your business analysis, your requirements, your design, your configuration, and your testing. So that's kind of the first phase of the migration. The second part of it is the actual migration steps, where you're then going to migrate the data and the content over into that new environment. So it's really a two-stage approach to that. Plan and build the new, then migrate the historical or the legacy data over. So if you're on an older version, but you want to do more, this is a pretty good approach for doing a migration. But there's always a what if. What if I'm not using a PPM system? I'm just with Project and SharePoint, I'm using Excel, and we have PowerPoint and email. Really good news here is that we're on a Microsoft platform. So what we can do is we can leverage those existing processes, the templates and the tools, and migrate those over. Again, go through that design, build, test, deploy, and then migrate over the content, the data you have directly into Project Online. So that's another option. But what if I have existing reports and they're all built using SQL reporting services or Excel and Excel services? What do I do with that? Again, not a problem. They can definitely be migrated over to Project Online, but you have to start to make some decisions. You have to determine if you're going to be using Power BI, which is an entirely different technology to do your reporting, or if you want to use SQL reporting services, which is the same technology, or you want to use a combination of both. If you're going to be going down the road with these reports and you really want to stay with some SSRS reports and do Power BI, a great approach is a data warehouse. And a data warehouse, what it's going to do, it's going to pull your data out of Project Online. It's going to stage it in a relational database, just like you would have on-premise, and it's going to allow you to drive the kind of queries and reports you want out of that. It's going to give you full access to your data to write SSRS and Power BI reports. It's actually going to have a synchronization engine between Project Online, so you can pull over different subsets of data to support reporting cycles, and it can be hosted wherever you want it to be, in Azure, in your data center, wherever you want it to be, so you can truly own your PPM data. So if you're going down this road and you're thinking, hey, I really need to migrate my reports, people rely on these, they trust these, I don't want to rebuild everything, taking a look at a PPM data warehouse, and we have an add-on product called Hammerhead that is a PPM data warehouse that supports this, is a pretty good option for you. And we'll provide you with a little more information after the session, but essentially it provides a data warehouse, a synchronization engine. It pulls all of your SharePoint lists and content over. It allows you to do idea lists up front and pull that information over. And it does provide pre-built reports both in Power BI and SSRS. So if you are interested in learning more about actually doing a migration or doing some assessment around that, we do offer a free migration assessment, where we'll come in, ask some questions, and come up with a migration plan for you. So if you are interested, please do reach out to us on that. We can assist with consulting around actually planning your migration and deploying it and building a solid roadmap for that, assessing your data and your content. We do have some migration tools that can assist with moving your configuration and your resource information, and then a really good process for getting all your project information over as well as your reports. Finally, if you're looking to train people on the new technology, there's training available and reporting tools as well. So please contact us at info@progility.com. Attention Project Online Migration Support if you have any questions or if you'd like to discuss in greater detail. So we are going to send you a link to a survey, but really our goal today was to give you an overview of how you can go about migrating, whether you're using Project and SharePoint, Project Server, a legacy technology or a legacy tool. There's a lot of possibilities, and it really all gets down to basic planning, putting a really good assessment in place, planning out what you need to move, why you need to move it, what your target configuration is going to look like, and what's really the business value or the business purpose behind moving to Project Online. If you can get those things knocked out early on, you can be very successful with migration, and it becomes a lot less painful. So if you have any questions, we'll put our contact information up here. You can definitely attend some of our upcoming webinars, which we talked about, or reach out to us at progility.com. You can hit our Progility website, send us an email at progility.com. Our sales team, we're always interested and willing to engage in a discussion to assist with helping you get to the latest version of Project Online. So with that, we are going to actually take some questions now. And Tom Henry has joined us today. Tom, I'm going to open the Q&A panel here in a second.
Thanks, Rob. I'm actually going to stop the recording now.
Okay. And